Hello and welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering that's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Shauna.
And today we are bringing you another pre-con deep dive. There are 5 in this set, so we're super excited to get to them. We're a little bit behind because of life, but I think that you'll find them hopefully helpful anyways. In this video, we're going to break down all of the cards in this deck, talk to you about what the deck is meant to do and how to use it wisely, hopefully. And if you wait until the end, we'll offer you some suggestions for tweaking this deck. Of course, there's lots of ways you can tweak any deck, so we also like to hear from you what you would do with this deck to tweak it, or maybe you would just leave it the same. So without further ado, Shauna, why don't you tell us about this commander and what this deck is meant to do?
Yeah, so this one is called Obscura Operation. So the Obscura colors are white, blue, and black. And I can't remember what that's called in other Magic worlds, but this is
It is
a
now
deck.
Obscura.
It's now Obscura. So whatever. So this commander is Kamiz Obscura Oculus. And he is a 2/4 for 1 colorless, a white, a blue, and a red, black. Whoopsie. And his job is to whenever you attack, target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. It connives. Then choose another attacking creature with lesser power. That creature gains double strike until end of turn. So connive is a new mechanic in this set, new Capenna set, and that is where you draw a card and then discard a card. So this deck is all about using your hand and your graveyard and the top of your library to do lots of shenanigans. So casting things from your graveyard and your hand, so you just have lots of different cards to choose from. It's about getting in for unblockable damage, making your unblockables bigger and bigger as time goes on. There's lots of tokens, lots of things that you can do that with, and you'll be able to pick from whichever cards because you've got some in your graveyard that you're going to play as well. So that's what this deck is about, unblockable shenanigans. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a little bit, there's lots of triggers that you need to keep track of, but it'll be really fun. It'll be very challenging, very hard to play, but exciting to play because you can do all sorts of things, I think.
Yeah, and if you're new to Magic and this is your first deck, you might not want to pick it as your very first experience jumping in, but for those people that have been playing a little bit, this gives you a little bit more of a challenge, I think. So that's great.
Definitely.
As far as this deck is broken down, we like to give you kind of the lowdown of the stats. Our mana curve is, I would say, flat. I don't know. It's got 5 at 1 mana cost, 14 at 2, and 14 at 3, which is a really good number for low mana. But then we have 11 at 4, 7 at 5, 9 at 6+, and then there's 2 that are X cost, which we take out of the scenario because they are technically 2 mana value, but you would hopefully cast them for more than that. So
yeah, exactly.
So we put them at the very end because they should be high mana value cards.
Yeah.
As far as our color breakdown goes, we have a lot of multicolored in this. 17 multicolored cards in this for Obscura, because there's some really good multicolor Obscura cards. 12 colorless, those are your artifacts and things like that. White, 8, blue 17, and black 8. So mostly blue and multicolor, which is great for all you blue players out there. This deck sounds really fun, actually. And then card types, 29 are creatures, 16 are instants and sorceries, enchantments 3, and artifacts 14. So mostly creatures in this, interestingly enough. But you do need them because if you're going to be discarding them and whatnot, then they're going to be in your graveyard instead, and you want to be able to have other ones to back those up while you're trying to bring them back from the graveyard. So we also like to break this down based on a specific formula. Shauna, why don't you tell them about our formula?
So this little formula is really handy to follow when you're building decks and evaluating decks. We've had a lot of success with this formula. It's quite simple and really effective. So about 15 ramp cards you'll need, about 15 removal, 13 card draw, 12 high impact cards. Those are cards that are going to win you the game. And then about 10 other cards, other win conditions, other things that help you get to your big win conditions. And then about 34 land is what we try to do with our commander decks. And most of the pre-con decks that Wizard makes follows this formula for most of the time.
Yeah, sometimes they're more on theme and whatnot, but
Yeah.
this is kind of a good mid-range starter deck. Everyone can play it type formula. Of course,
Yeah.
the more high impact stuff, the higher level your deck is going to be, and so it's just a starter formula for us.
Yeah.
So that's how we evaluate and we see where we're at. As far as this deck goes, we're going to start with our ramp and mana generator cards and tell you a little bit more about them. Our formula says that we should have about 15. This deck only has 9. So it's a little light on the mana ramp, which I think it gives up for some more on-theme stuff, which can work, but maybe play with it and see how it goes. Our first one is Arcane Signet. It's a fairly basic card these days for a commander deck. 2 mana costs, and you can just add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So great little card.
Then we have the signets that are good for these colors. So the Azoria Signet, the Dimir Signet, and the Orzhov Signet are all cards that you pay 1 and they tap for the corresponding 2 colors. So the white and the blue for the Azorius, the blue and the black for Dimir, and the white and the black for Orzhov. So those are pretty much staples in any sort of, especially if you have a 3-color deck, you want to make sure that you have ways to get those 2 mana. And that's just 2 cost artifacts that are easy to come by, usually.
And then we have Commander Sphere and Fellware Stone, which are both ones that tap for any color in your commander's color identity, or in the Fellware Stone state, any mana of a color that an opponent controls can produce. The benefit of Commander Sphere is that you can also sacrifice it later to draw a card when you no longer need it as mana ramp. So,
yeah. Then we have buying precons is a great way to get soul rings because soul rings are hard to come by. So this is a soul ring in this deck as well, and it's 1 mana cost that gives you 2 colorless mana that everybody wants to have turn 1. Leslie has it all the time.
Not lately.
So, don't know how that happens.
You have a reputation.
It has.
Wayfarer's Bauble. This is the new art for this, which I love.
It's pretty.
Basically 1 mana, you can pay 2, sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tap. So way to go for you to go searching for the land that you need.
And this little enchantment is a new card from the new set called Life Insurance. It's for 3, a white and a black that has Extort. And whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. So it's just a great way to sacrifice creatures and get treasure. And treasure is mana. So we want our treasure tokens. So I thought it'd be good in the little ramp section there.
And
so
Extort is maybe new to for some people. What
yes.
is Extort?
Yes. So you can sacrifice a creature when you play this card or when you use this card. So whenever you sacrifice a creature, and you can just, and you pay a life to do that.
Perfect. Oh, right. Yeah. So it's an enchantment that's on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And you just, yeah. All right. Our next section is removal, which arguably is the most important section outside of high impact cards. Formula says 15. This deck has 13. So we're right close to where we need to be in the formula. That's decent. Custody Lich is our first one for 5. It's a little 4/2 zombie cleric. And when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch, which is another great way for you to get card draw in this, which we'll talk about multiple times as we go. But whenever you become the monarch, target player sacrifices a creature. And there's the kicker there, because he's going to come in, you're going to get the monarch, and someone's going to have to sacrifice a creature. So nice removal there on a creature.
Then we have Daxos of Melitus for 1 white and 1 blue and a colorless. It's a 2/2, and he can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. So that's going to be fun. He's going to sneak his way in there, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You gain life equal to that card's mana value. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. So it's a great way to steal stuff from someone else, as well as gain some life and keep you in the game, which is kind of important.
And you're removing it from their deck so they can't play it.
Yes, exactly.
Thief of Sanity does this as well. This is why we put it in the removal. It's 3 mana for a 2/2 with flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to look at the top 3 cards of that player's library. You exile one of them face down, and then put the rest of them in their graveyard. So you're getting rid of 3 cards for 3 here, and then you put the rest into the grave. Or sorry, then you look at you can look at and cast that card as long as it remains in exile, and you may spend mana as though it was any mana type to cast that spell. So basically, it's a spell that now you get benefits of, and all you had to do was put Thief of Sanity onto the battlefield. It's flying, so it's going to be hopefully easy to get over their heads and swing and hit. And if we remember, our commander, when our commander is out on the battlefield, gives 1 creature at the beginning of combat unblockable. So you could make Thief of Sanity your unblockable thing, and then they can't even block it. So get your commander out in this deck probably as soon as you can. Keep him out on the battlefield in order to make this deck work.
Definitely. And Austere Command is for 4 and 2 white, a sorcery that is just good all-around removal. You can choose 2 of these items here. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with mana value 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. So whatever you need to do, this is going to affect you, of course, as well, but you've got ways to bring stuff back. So hopefully that doesn't affect you too much.
If you're Shauna, you're just gonna pick the bottom 2. 3 or less and 4 or greater. Everyone dies.
Everyone dies.
And we have Dusk to Dawn. So this card is an interesting one. These are ones that you cast the first part, and then when you put it into your graveyard, you kind of tip it sideways so you can see the little second part sticking out. So the first one is Dusk. Destroy all creatures with a power of 3 or greater. That costs you 4. And then you can use its aftermath to return all creature cards with power of 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So you can get your creatures back if you need to. You have a lot of 2 or less in this. We remember we were at 14 there. So nice little combination for this deck.
Yeah. Then we've got Nightmare Unmaking for 3 and 2 black. It's a sorcery that you choose 1, exile each creature with power greater than the number of cards in your hand, or you can exile each creature with power less than the number of cards in your hand. So depending what you need there, it's another great board wipe. Hopefully one-sided as much as possible. You're going to hopefully have lots of little guys, because that's kind of what this deck does. And they'll have big guys that you're just going to get rid of. And then your little guys can do their work.
So Lethal Scheme has Convoke on it. So it's 4 mana, but you can use your creatures to convoke, which means you turn them sideways, tap them just like they were land, and you can use that for your colorless. I believe just the colorless, right? Remind me. It's just the colorless. You still have to play the 2 black. So twice, 2 creatures you can use for that. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Each creature you control or that you could vote with then gets to connive. And as a reminder, conniving allows you to draw a card, discard a card, and then give that creature a 1/1 counter. So giving your creatures counters is great. Digging through your deck is great. And you get to destroy some creatures in the long run.
And actually, I think you can tap black creatures to pay for the black mana. I'm pretty sure, because I used to use Conclave Tribunal all the time, and I did use white creatures for white. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well,
so you don't have to actually spend mana. Well, I explained Commit to Memory. So this is another one of those cards that have 2 modes to play. So again, first of all, you're playing the Commit for 3 and a blue. That's an instant that you put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library second from the top. So they're going to swing with their big guy or something like that. You're going to get rid of it. Whatever you need to get rid of. It's a temporary fix, but hopefully you're going to have Thief of Sanity and you're just going to steal it from them or something like that. So that's okay. And then once that card hits your graveyard, you can then play it for, it's actually exiled technically, I think. And its memory side has I got to turn my head, each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. So that's a good little reset for everyone. Hopefully you're going to get rid of stuff out of their hands that they really wanted to keep and that they get back junk. But you get 7 cards, which is a nice thing to do.
At the very least, even if they don't have
it just messes them up.
Good cards, they have to think their strategy. Like most people, as you're thinking through, you're waiting for your turn, you're thinking about what your next move is, what your strategy is, trying to figure out, okay, this turn, then this turn, then this turn. So now you've made them have to think about it all over again, and there's nothing wrong with that. And Convoke is, in fact, if you use black creatures, you can use black creatures for black mana or the same colored creature for same. So you can use 4 creatures to Convoke, which then 4 creatures would connive.
And that's an instant.
Yeah. It's great.
Nice.
Utter End is for 4 mana, and it's just a basic exile target non-land permanent.
Simple. Does its job. Non-land permanents. Get rid of them. This one is an offer you can't refuse. This is a new uncommon in the new set, and I was surprised to see that it's already $1 for this little guy. Just a little uncommon card, an offer you can't refuse. For 1, it's an instant. You get to counter target non-creature spell, but its controller creates 2 treasure tokens, but it's a counter for 1. Which is nasty.
Yeah. And Obscura Charm. I love the charms in this set. So this one, of course, has all 3 colors, and you get to choose one. So there's some choices here, which is great. Return target multicolor permanent card with a mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which you want in this deck because you're going to be discarding cards to give yourself counters. Counter target instant or sorcery, so you can use it as some removal. And you can destroy target creature or planeswalker with a mana value of 3 or less. So there's 2 kind of removal things on there, as well as a bring back from the graveyard, depending on what you need.
Yeah, handy dandy. Then we have Swords to Plowshares for 1. It's a good old removal tool. It's an instant that says exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. It's just a nice little Hail Mary kind of card.
Into Deep. I love that.
Yeah.
For 2 mana, it's got Split Second. And then enchant creature, planeswalker, or clue. Enchanted permanent is colorless clue artifact with sacrifice this artifact, draw a card, and lose all other abilities. So Split Second, correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, I don't see them. We normally have them in the document. But I believe Split Second means it goes on the stack and it can't, nothing else can be, it can't be responded to.
Nope.
So there's no counter spells, no in response, I'm going to do this, I'm going to flicker it out or whatever. It's like, nope, it's on there. Too bad, so sad. Split Second is happening because I put it in there. Yeah. So as long as it's on the stack, players can't cast other spells and activate abilities. So you can't even activate your abilities that aren't mana abilities. So nice.
Makes them become a clue, which is kind of useless. Well, it's a draw.
Well, they get to draw a card, but
takes away their planeswalker.
Put that on whatever it is that they're running you over with, right?
Exactly. Then we get into our card draw and tutors section. The formula calls for 13. The deck has 10, but you've also got your commander doing some things for you. And so it's maybe it'll be okay.
This, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got your first one is a 4/3 bird soldier, an aerial extortionist. I love the art on this one. It's kind of funny. He's holding the devil up there. It's like, okay, tell me what I want to know or I'm dropping you. 4/3 flyer. Whenever Aerial Extortionist enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to one target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may cast it. Whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card. So you're taking advantage of people casting things from elsewhere. You're getting rid of something temporarily. It could be your stuff if you want to get it out from underneath an enchantment or something. But usually you're going to play it on someone else's card to get rid of their big thing and make them have to cast it again or something like that. And then they're punished for that. You get to draw a card. So it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of good card draw, Champion of Wits for 3 is a 2/1 that when it comes in, you get to draw cards equal to its power. So for 3, you get to draw 2 cards right away. You do have to discard 2 cards, but that's okay because there are ways of taking advantage of whenever you discard a card in this deck, which is awesome. And then once it dies and is in the graveyard, you can pay 7 and bring it back as a 4/4 zombie. Remember, it has the same abilities, so you're going to get to draw 4 cards. So it's totally worth those 7. So twice you get to draw cards, and you get a 4/4 black zombie naga. So
great. It's good. Ghostly Pilfer, it's a little 2/1 for 2 that whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do, you get to draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card. So again, punishing them for drawing all these extra or doing all this extra stuff. And you can discard a card, and Ghostly Pilfer can't be blocked this turn. There you go.
Shadow Mage Infiltrator for 3. So lots of low mana curve stuff that's awesome in this deck. Is a 1/3. It has Fear, which means it can't be blocked by creatures except for artifact creatures and black creatures. Which can be good and can be bad. There's a lot of commander decks out there with black, and there's a lot of commander decks out there with the artifact creatures. So, yeah. But remember, your commander can make something unblockable. Yep. When this guy deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. So if you can make them unblockable, or they don't have any of the colors that can block, then you're just going to continually get some card draw, which is wonderful.
Then we have Daring Saboteur, little human pirate, 2/1 for 2 again. And you can pay 2 and a blue, and it can't be blocked this turn. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So again, pushing through and cycling into your graveyard there.
And Looter Ilkor, this is another one that if you deal combat damage to an opponent, you get to draw a card. You do have to discard a card after that, but that's okay because you're going to be doing all kinds of, again, benefits. This one does have Shadow on it, which I don't think will be a problem. I don't see a lot of Shadow cards. Of course, there's all kinds of cards that get played in Commander, but the likelihood of you seeing one around your Commander table is pretty slim. Creature card, or this basically creature can only be blocked by creatures that have Shadow, so because it has Shadow itself.
Yeah. Then we have Treasure Cruise, which is for 7 and a blue, a big expensive, you think, drawing cards. It draws 3 cards, but it has Delve, so you can exile cards from your graveyard to pay for 1. For each card you exile, it pays for 1 of those 7. So that's a great way to thin out your graveyard, get rid of some of the lands and stuff that you don't need in there anymore, that you're not going to be bringing back. And then you can cast this for only 1 blue potentially, and you get 3 cards. So that's kind of fun.
So here, this next card is one that takes advantage of those discarded cards that we were just talking about earlier. Currency Converter. Whenever you discard a card, you can exile that card from your graveyard. So you would just like tuck it under this one. And then you can pay 2 and tap to draw a card, then discard a card. So if you need to like continually discard, then there you go. You can do that if you haven't done it yet. And then you can tap it and put a card exiled with Currency Converter into your graveyard. If it's a land card, create a treasure. If it's a non-land card, you create a 2/2 black rogue creature. So it's almost like it's tucking it away. Yes, you've discarded it, but we're going to tuck it away and turn it into a rogue before it hits the graveyard, and then we're going to bring it back. So it's just like a little pit stop.
Nice. And then we have Mask of Riddles. It is a cool little equipment for 1 blue and 1 black. Equipped creature has Fear, and so that, just a reminder, it can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or black creatures. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And its equip is only 2. So it's a good little, let's just get in there and ping, 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 and draw some cards.
All right,
Nice.
you've waited all this time. We're almost at half an hour. So high impact cards. Here we go.
Yeah.
Formula says we should have 12. This deck has about 11 by what we've decided. The first one is Tibet, Seller of Secrets. It is a 3 and a white, blue, black. So all of our Obscura colors. So 6 mana for a 6/6, which is right on curve. But this one has some upsides. It's got flying. It's got Ward 3. Ward 3 means that anything that targets it costs 3 more to cast. And then it's got Council's Dilemma. Whenever Tibet enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery, which is super fun. And for each evidence vote, investigate. And for each bribery vote, create a treasure token. While voting, you may vote an additional time. So you get to choose twice what you need. They all have to give you something. They're going to hate it. It's going to be wonderful. This is just going to be super fun.
Yeah. The politics. Leslie loves the politics.
Yeah.
This next guy is a 3/3 for 3 and a blue flying bird rogue, Skyway Robber, and it has escape. So escape means that it can be in your graveyard and you can pay its escape cost plus exile whatever number of cards. This one is 5 other cards from your graveyard to play it again from the graveyard, or if you've discarded it there, you could play it. And it escapes with whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell from among cards exiled with Skyway Robber without paying its mana cost. So those cards that you use to cast it from the graveyard, you get to actually play them.
So good.
So that's awesome. They're not wasted. Woohoo!
Mm-hmm. And then Oscar the Rubbish Reclaimer. He is a nice little 5 mana cost 3/3, but this spell costs 1 less to cast for each different mana value among cards in your graveyard. So all those things you're discarding, they have a mana value. This one, its mana value is 5. You might have some that are 2, 3. So for each different one, you get to reduce this cost by 1. And whenever you discard, and once he's on the battlefield, whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it from your graveyard. So now those things that you're discarding can be cast from your graveyard. Now it does say whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it. So it's not like it becomes a separate little hand or pile. You have to cast it when you discard it, kind of like Madness. And so just make sure that you have enough mana for that, because that would be something Leslie would do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. I forgot to say with Connive that if you discard a non-land card, which is what you want to do with this card out especially, you get to put a counter on your little creature that you played. I forgot about that. If it's a land card, you don't get the counter, but still. Then we have Archon of Coronation for 4 and 2 white. It's a 5/5 flyer as well. And when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. So here's that monarch thing again. And as long as you're the monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life.
I love this card so much.
I hate it when Leslie plays that card.
I love this card. Hate it. It's funny because I probably won't buy this deck because it's just a little bit too blue for me. But I love a lot of the cards in it. Like this next one, which is Sun Titan for 6. Vigilance 6/6. So again, 6/6 for 6. There's nothing wrong with that. This one happens to have Vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with a mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, don't be afraid. I think a lot of times when you're discarding stuff, people are afraid. They're like, oh, I'll just do the land because I really want to cast this card. You will have ways of getting it back. Discard the non-land permanents and get those counters so that you can swing in for lethal damage.
And that's what's tricky about this deck. You have to be able to think ahead and think of those things. So you want cards like Chasm Skulker here, which is a 3 mana cost card, and you want it to die later on because it is a 1/1. Whenever you draw a card, you get to put a counter on this guy. And then when it dies, you create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk. So that means they're unblockable, except if they're unblockable. unless they
Mhm.
have islands.
Yeah.
And you've got where X is the number of 1/1 counters on this guy. So every time you're making this a big creature, and then you've got all these little creatures.
Yeah.
Then you're going to bring it back and do it all over
They're
again.
not going to want to kill it, but they are going to want to kill it. And yeah.
Yeah. It does a lot of work for you. So that's one of those cards that you could bring back with Sun Titan.
And remember, like there's 2 cards that give you Monarch, which gives you an extra draw at the end of your turn. We didn't explain that.
Right.
You can lose it if someone does combat damage, then they become the Monarch. So the Monarch, once it's on the thing, goes around. So you're going to want to get it back. You also have the card draw cards, plus anytime you connive, you're drawing a card. So there's all kinds of drawing happening in this. Drina, Liberator of Malakir, Shauna's favorite card, or one of them. For 3, it's a little 2/3. She's a flying first strike. And when she deals combat damage to a player, you get to put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control. So if you make this one unblockable, then Leslie will cry.
Yes. I'm going to explain something about this card that I always forget, but it's very important. It has first strike. Mm-hmm. So it's going to hit first before your other creatures do. So it hits, and so then all those other creatures get those counters before they hit.
Yeah.
So they all get the bonus right away. And a lot of people don't know that. And it's something I forget all the time.
Definitely a good reminder for people.
Yeah. Then we have Leslie's favorite card. Yeah. Alela, Artful Provocateur. I don't know.
Yeah, Provocateur.
Provocateur. This is a little fairy warlock that does a ton of work for Leslie all the time. So hopefully in this deck, it'll do a ton of work for 1. And then the Obscura colors. It has flying, death touch, lifelink, little 2/3. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0. Your Drina becomes a 3/3 there. Whenever you cast an artifact or an enchantment spell, you create little 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying. So then all those stupid little fairies are 2/1s.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're already really annoying. They're already 2/1s because other creatures you control with flying get 1.
That's what I mean.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then you give them 1/1 counters with Drina. They work really well together. I should put Drina in my Alela deck.
You should. It's not an expensive card.
Dragon Lord Ajutai for 5 is a 5/4 with flying, and when it has hexproof as long as it's untapped. And whenever Dragon Lord Ajutai deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. So great little ongoing card draw there, but it's also a 5/4. So I guess it's not card draw, it's tutoring basically. Yes,
definitely. Then we have this freaky little this card gives me the creeps all the time. Fallen Shinobi. It is a ninjutsu card, a little zombie ninja for 5/4 for it's a 5/4 for 5. But it has ninjutsu of 4. So what ninjutsu means is that you're attacking with a creature, and for your unblocked creature, you can then pay the ninjutsu cost and play this card and have it it come out, and you put the other one back in your hand. So it goes out and does damage instead of the little one. So you switch them out. Switch this card out for one of your little guys that's unblockable. And suddenly you're hitting that player with the 5/4, and you get, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library until end of turn. You may play those cards without paying their mana costs.
Mm-hmm. And of course, ninjutsu can only be done on something that's not blocked. So it's automatically going to do its thing.
Yep.
And then Silent Blade Oni is another ninjutsu card. Its regular cost is quite expensive, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for a 6/5, but its ninjutsu cost is only 6, so you 1 less. And again, your commander helps you with that because it's going to make something unblockable, and then you can ninjutsu something in. So again, get your commander out early, keep it on the board if you can. Whenever Silent Blade Oni does combat damage to a player, you look at the player's hand, and you may cast a spell from among those cards without paying its mana cost. You just get to steal one of their cards. from their hand, hopefully the one that they were hoping to play next.
Oh my gosh.
Fun.
So this, yeah, this deck is lots of fun. Then we have Swift Foot Boots. We wanted to put it in the high impact because this
It's
thing
rude.
does a ton of work for you. It's rude.
That's
Your
how you
group
keep
creature
your
has
commander safe. We were
hexproof
just talking
and
about that. Yeah.
haste. Yep. And it's equipped as 1. So you're just sticking this on whatever cards that just come out, and you're giving it haste, and you're swinging away, and it's just, it does a lot of work for you, let's just say.
Mm-hmm. And then this last one in this section, we had a little bit of a discussion about because we weren't quite sure which section to put it in, but we settled on high impact because it's a 6 mana cost 5/8 with Island Walk and Swamp Walk, which in and of itself is good. But this one also has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
And if the spell would be put into the graveyard this turn, then you exile instead. So it gets rid of it from theirs if they're going to do some shenanigans, like with the Maestro deck that they can recast instants and sorceries, then it's gonna help against that. It's a nice little Kraken that has the upside for you. We weren't sure if it should go in this or support because they may not have anything in their graveyard, but you can ask what people have in their graveyard before you make a decision. So definitely ask people. Island Walk and Swamp Walk basically means if they have an island, they can't block it. If they have a swamp, they can't block it. And again, your commander can make something unblockable. So if you want to swing in at someone that doesn't have those, you can still make it unblockable. So
yeah,
great.
Then we're on to our other cards on theme, other win conditions, specialty type cards that will help you with your theme. The formula calls for 10. The deck has about 18. So these could possibly go in other sections too. But they're just going to do some work for you. They're not necessarily game-winning cards by themselves. The first one we have is Cephalid Facetaker, which is just a crazy name. For 2 and a blue, it's a 1/4, and it can't be blocked. So there's a little guy that can't be blocked. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have this guy become a copy of another target creature until end of turn, except it's a 1/4 and has this creature can't be blocked. So you're just getting in there with something that can do some other things, maybe.
Mm-hmm. One of those cards that can do if it does combat damage, something good happens.
Yes.
Turn it into one of those.
Yeah.
Because it's already unblockable.
Yeah.
Misfortune Teller for 4 is a 3/1. This one won't want to block because it has Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature from a graveyard. If it's exile target card from a graveyard. If it's a creature card, you get a 2/2 Black Rogue. If it was a land card, you get a treasure. Otherwise, you gain 3 life. So lots of options there. I guess a reminder that 3/1s, anything with like a really big power and a little butt, is usually meant to attack with. You're meant to be aggressive with it. And the ones with the big butt and the little power are ones that you're like sit back and maybe don't attack or block. They're good blockers. So you want to attack with that one.
Yep. Then we have Identity Thief. This is a 0/3 for 2 and 2 blue, but whenever it attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. If you do, Identity Thief becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. And then you return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a great way to borrow one of theirs or your own or whatever. It can be whatever you want. It's very fun.
And I love this. I've had this next card in a few of my decks. Nadir Kraken for 3. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, you put a 1/1 counter on it and create a 1/1 blue tentacle token. It's a 2/3 that's going to get bigger. All you have to do is pay 1 and you get a tentacle along with it. And there's nothing wrong with paying 1 for a little tentacle creature token. So this guy's going to get big and hopefully unblockable at some point.
Yeah. And we've got the Graveblade Marauder. It's a 1/4 for 2 and a black. It has Death Touch. Again, you're going to want to swing in there. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Uh-oh.
Crazy.
Drainy.
Yeah. Whirler
Do one
Rogue,
damage to this spell.
classic Whirler Rogue, 4 for a 2/2. So why is that good? Well, when Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, you get to create 2/1/1 colorless softer artifact creature tokens with flying. So it technically is 4/4 for 4, but split up. And then you can tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, so target creature can't be blocked this turn. So those little Whirler Rogues are just going to keep being available for you to tap and make something unblockable.
Yeah. Ink Fathom Witch. It is 1/1 for 1 and either black or blue mana. It has fear, so that's where it can't be blocked, except for artifact creatures or black creatures. And it has pay 2 and a blue and a black, and each unblocked creature has base power and toughness of 4/1 until end of turn. So keep that in mind as you're swinging with this guy.
That's great. Jailbreak for 2. This is now we're getting into returning things from the graveyard after you've stuffed your graveyard full of things. Return target permanent card in an opponent's graveyard to the battlefield under their control. And when that permanent enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target permanent card with equal or less a mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. So there's a little bit of upside. You're gaining some friends while you do it, which is always great, which is why it only costs 2. But you get something of equal or lesser value back from your graveyard as well. So
Then we've got Writ of Return for 3 and 2 black. Return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And I forget what cipher means. I had it this morning and now I forgot.
Well, you can look it up while I talk about Stolen Identity.
Sure, I will do that.
Because I don't remember. Stolen Identity is, see, we don't know what we're talking about, you guys. But thank you for watching anyway.
Yeah.
We'll find out what we're talking about. Stolen Identity is for 6. You get to create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature. Oh, look, so this card has cipher written on it.
There we go.
So I'll just read this because this card has cipher as well. So it says, then you may exile this spell card encoded on the creature you control. And when that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost.
Okay.
So you're going to create a token copy of an artifact or creature, whichever. It could be yours. It could be theirs. And then you may exile this spell with the creature basically encoded. It's like a little encoded copy. And then when that creature deals combat damage to a player, you can cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So you just keep getting to create copies of this creature because someone is doing damage. So it can stop them if you choose their thing. It stops them from attacking with it because they don't want you to have a bunch of copies of it. Or if you create it as something that you have on your battlefield that you've made unblockable or can continue to make unblockable, then you can continue to get copies of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Complicated, but fun.
Yeah.
Profane Command for X and 2 black. This is one of our X cost sorceries. Choose 2. Target player loses X life. Ouch, that could be bad. Return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that would be good. Target creature gets -X until end of turn. Get removal there. And up to X target creature cards, or up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn. So you make them unblockable mostly.
Potentially a game winner in any of those cases. Yeah. You get to choose 2 of those. So it's awesome. Yeah. Change of plans. X1 in a blue. Each of X target creatures you control connive. You may have any number of them phase out. So you may have them. This is a great way to, number 1, get someone tries to do a board wipe. You cast this and potentially save some of your creatures while you're doing card draw and giving them counters at the same time. So I would recommend with this one, save it until someone does a board wipe. Have some mana saved aside so that you can save some of your creatures. You're playing blue. You're not tapping out. Don't tap out if you're playing blue.
You got stuff going on. Then we have the Confluence, the Obscura Confluence. In this case, for 1 and the Obscura colors, it is an instant that you get to choose 3 of. You may choose the same mode more than once, which is handy dandy. So that is until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness of 1/1. So you make all their 3 big guys, turn them into little 1/1s maybe, or you can make one of your target creature connive. You can make a target player return a creature card from their graveyard to their hand. That could be helpful for you too. It's just lots of good things you could choose there.
Mask of the Schemer is just an amazing card. Because for 3 mana, you get an artifact that when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives X, where X is the amount of damage it dealt to a player. So first of all, you're going to be continuing to put 1/1 counters on it because it's conniving that many times. You're drawing a bunch of cards to get what you want, putting a bunch of stuff in the graveyard that you need to put in your graveyard, and then making it bigger so that next time you're going to connive even more. That's very conniving of you.
Yes, it is. And this little Quietus Spike for 3, it's Leslie hates it when I play this card. Equipped creature has Death Touch, and whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half of their life rounded up.
I mean, to be fair, I love it when you play that card because I think it's a great card. I just hate it when you swing at me with that card.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Strynec Resonator is an artifact that costs 2, and you can pay 2 and tap it to copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So, Shauna, what's a triggered ability?
Triggered ability is an ability that has it's triggered by something that happens. So on the card, it's got something : so it could be tapping, it could be paying something, it could be, I don't know. So like, for example, the Ink Fathom Witch has paid 2, a blue and a black, and then a colon, and then it has text after it. So that's a triggered ability right there.
So anything that says like when this happens or whenever this happens or at this time, that's a triggered ability.
Yeah.
Cool. You're the next one.
Oh, I'm the next one. Yes. Smugglers Cove. I like these little raccoons. For 2 and a white, it's a little enchantment that says the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn, then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands into the battlefield under their control this turn. So this is, especially in Commander, this is a great way to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get stuff too. If you're going to get stuff, I'm going to get stuff too.
Definitely. Smugglers.
Kind of like, yeah.
So for the land in this thing, we're not going to go through all the land. You guys can look at the land yourself. It's a good mix. There's a lot of good non-basics in there. There are 38. Our formula recommends 34. So this is a good place to start tweaking. We definitely believe that 38 to 39 is too many lands for a commander deck. You will just continue to draw lands. And unless you have a lands matter deck, you're going to just get frustrated. But we also believe that Wizards does that on purpose so that you can tweak, which brings us to our tweaking section. You've made it, everybody. You are here for some tweaks, and we are excited about them. So, Shauna, what is our first tweak?
Our very first one is the Obscura Ascendancy. So the Ascendancies are rare cards for each of the colors in the new set. So it's for the 3 Obscura colors. It's an enchantment that says whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to 1 plus the number of soul counters on this card, you put a soul counter on this card, then create a 2/2 white spirit token with flying. And as long as there are 5 or more soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, spirits you control get +3/+3. So it's just another way to generate lots of creatures for yourself there.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
To lose, Clever Conductor, again, Obscura colors. This one has the hybrid mana, so that hybrid mana does not mean that you have to pay both of those. It means that you can play either or. So we have either or plus blue plus either or, could be any combination of those. And when Toulouse Clever Conductor enters the battlefield, it connives. So another one that takes advantage of conniving. And whenever you discard one or more cards, exile it from your graveyard. And when this guy dies, you get to put those cards from exile into their owner's hands. So he's a nice little 3/1. He's meant to be aggressive, but it gets those connive cards into your hand again without having to bring it back from the graveyard, so to speak.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were concerned about was getting some of the stuff back from the graveyard. There isn't a lot of graveyard recursion type stuff. So a little card that we like is Archomancer. It's a 2 and 2 blue, a 1/2, and when he enters the battlefield, return a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a great way to get one of those back for yourself.
Yep. And Bishop of Rebirth, also another bring things back. This is a 5 mana cost 3/4 with Vigilance. So it's already good. And when Bishop of Rebirth attacks, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, all it has to do is attack. It doesn't have to hit. He's got a decent butt. If you can give him some counters, that would be great. Make him indestructible in some way or make him unblockable. Then you get stuff back.
Yeah. Then there's the Bloodsoaked Champion. It's a little 1 mana cost 2/1 that can't block, but that's okay. That's not his job. He's going to be swinging and attacking. And it has a raid statement on here. This is one of those triggered abilities for 1 and a black. You can return this from your graveyard to the battlefield and activate only if you attacked with a creature this turn. You're going to be attacking. You're going to be bringing this, cycling this guy back and forth. So it's going to be really do a lot of work for you.
Sorry, this isn't a triggered ability. This is an activated ability.
Oh, sorry. Is that?
Because you have to do something to activate.
Sorry, it's activated. Sorry. Activated is the colon.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brain. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's nighttime.
That's why we're a team. Half a brain, half a brain. Call of the Death Dweller for 3 is another return 2 target creature cards with a total converted mana cost of 3 or less. So that might be one thing that's 3, or it might be 2 things that are maybe a 2 and a 1, or 3 things of 1. However you want to do that. From your graveyard to the battlefield, put a death touch counter on either of them, and then put a menace counter on either of them. So you're going to get... You could put them on either one of those cards, but bringing things back from the graveyard, another little recursion.
Definitely. And then, speaking of triggered abilities, this one's triggered.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Shauna, seriously. Okay, so Hero of Precinct 1. I love this card with multi, as you saw at the beginning. This deck has lots of multicolored cards. This guy is going to make you a lot of little humans that you're just going to be swinging in and doing a lot of work with. He is great. It's a great card. You think he's little? Well, he's going to do a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
They have to get rid of him.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about the card draw in this and how you're conniving and you're doing all kinds of card draw. We felt that Ominous Sea might be a good option for you if you felt like benefiting from those card draw a little bit more. Whenever you draw a card, you get to put a Foreshadow counter on Ominous Sea, and then you can remove 8 Foreshadow counters and create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. The enchantment doesn't go away. You just can continue to make 8/8 Krakens. So that is going to be great, especially if you can make them unblockable.
And then the next card, you've gone to all this trouble to build this amazing deck of unblockable stuff and doing a lot of things with your creatures. You want to make sure that you have some sort of protection. This is a really expensive card to Fury's protection, but Strixhaven packs have Mystical Archive cards in them. And I actually got a Mystical Archive version of Teferi's Protection. So it's a great way. Strixhaven is a really fun set to play, and it's a great way to get some of those cards that are a little bit hard to get. You can get them in the Mystical Archive version, so they're very pretty as well. So Teferi's Protection is a 2 and a white instant that says until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. And all permanent you control phase out. So basically it goes, hey, I'm just not here right now. Leave me alone.
Mhm. And then we thought Narset would be a good way to stop them from drawing cards and helping you kind of filter through your deck and get to what you need. So we added her in there. She's a nice thing. We also thought this deck is very, the Obscura colors are very, I think it's Bant, but very control-y. They're the same colors as all of the control decks out there. So
Yeah.
any of those planeswalkers and any of those control decks you could put
Yeah.
in here if you wanted to go that route. Again, it's just another option. You're not going to do all of these cards from our tweaks. You're going to pick the ones you like the most, because you don't want to just, well, you might want to completely change the deck out, but
Whatever you want to do.
mm-hmm.
And Guardian of Faith is another little bit of a protection card there for 1 and 2 white. It's a 3/2 with flash and vigilance. And when it enters the battlefield, any number of other target creatures you control phase out. So just gets them in there, get in there, and then protects the dudes that need protection.
And last but not least, we have 3 cards that allow you to have no maximum hand size. You're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. There's nothing worse than having to discard them without benefiting from connive. So keep them in your hand if you can. We have Wizard's Class, Reliquary Tower, and Thought Vessel. All say you have no maximum hand size. Wizard's Class also has the other benefit of when it becomes level 2, you get to draw 2 cards. So again, card draw. And when it becomes level 3, which doesn't take very much work, whenever you draw a card, you get to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So Wizard's Class is almost kind of it's only an uncommon. I think it's kind of an auto include for me. Yeah. I think it works really well with this deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for this time. Thanks for watching and being here with us in this video. And we are available on YouTube and Twitch. Come and hang out with us there. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, all those places. We'd love to hear how you would tweak this deck or what you would do with these commanders. And that's it for this time. And we'll see you next time. And in the meantime,
tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.